If someone were to ask me what is the #1 book scene that I will hate for the rest of my life, it is the ending of Eleanor Park. Hi guys, today I have exited the reading slump. I reread my favorite book from 4 years ago. It has been my favorite book from the start and it still is my favorite book, and I'm gonna tell you why. Now first, that book is Eleanor Park. This book is written by Rainbow Rowell. It's following two misfits and how they fell in love, Eleanor and Park. Now I realized that the description of the book seems pretty basic, but I'm gonna change your mind. There are going to be spoilers in this video, so watch at your own risk. I first read this when I was 17 years old. That was 4 years ago. I'm gonna turn 22 years old this year. There are so many things that I felt when I was 17. There's so many things that I realized and felt differently reading it again. So I'm going to talk about this book and how things have changed, about how my opinions have changed throughout the 4 years. And I'm also going to react to my book review that I did of this book 4 years ago. It's gonna be a long video, but trust me, it's gonna be worth it, okay? Let's start. When I picked up this book, I just could not put it down. Now when I was thinking about making this video, there are so many ways I could make it, okay? I could make it the same way that I did when I was 17 years old, you know, the very chirpy, very loud, all over the place, you know, wanna go here, wanna go there. Then I thought about making it kind of like a very brief, what did I think, how is the series now, is this still my favorite book, very general. And then I thought of making it super detailed, but then the thing about making it super detailed is that I feel that nobody really wanna watch me talk for around 20-30 minutes. But then it occurred to me, this is like the only time I can talk as much as I want about my favorite book. So I'm just gonna talk about it in detail. I'm not gonna say this is for everyone. I know some people don't like the book. I know some people hate how the ending works. I'm gonna get into that, okay? I have to apologize for the background sound because my family's making noise. Now there are so many things that I want to talk about. I'm gonna talk about why I think this book is amazing, especially during the time that it was published. I am from Singapore. I have nowhere near real life experience to how Americans live their life, to how life it is over there. Growing up, I come from a multiracial country. However, it is diversity in the Asian kind of world. Now there are people from different countries that come to where I am. I didn't really had any friends that are from America or anyone in that sort of area geographically, if you get what I mean. Growing up, I am very lucky to be in a normal household. The first thing I want to point out about this book, domestic violence and domestic abuse. I am very grateful to have the household that I have. Now again, I come from an Asian country. Where we are from, nobody really talks about domestic abuse and domestic violence. Then the only time that I've ever seen this topic being covered is either in movies, is either in TV shows, and this was rather the first book that I've read that covered that topic. This topic is more common now from where I'm from in this day and age. However, me growing up and me going into adulthood, me being 17, I just got into reading at this point in time when I was studying this book, and the way that the book covered from a first person perspective about domestic abuse, domestic violence, I think this is amazing. I'm really glad that this topic is actually one of the main motivating factors that push the story forward. How Eleanor Park manages to describe how the main character live in this world, live through this every day. I think this is amazing, and I'm glad that this topic is being put into the story. My mom is being so loud. I can't take it. Now, putting this topic into this book, technically you are targeting people or teenagers, maybe girls or guys, that was in the same range as I was. Again, I was 17 years old. On my end, I am being more aware about this topic. On the other end, there are people that are going through this maybe every day. Maybe they are going through this and they feel like they are alone. Me, if I'm going through this in my real life, I will be so glad that this was being put into this book. I would finally realize that I'm not alone. I honestly think within the 5 years that I've read this, the whole book world, book industry have changed. And honestly, at that time that I picked this book up, it's amazing that this topic is being talked in this book. So that's number one. Number two, diversity. And diversity has been a topic that a lot of people have pushed for. A lot of people want diversity in books, and there are more diversities in books right now, which I'm so glad. Number one, the main character is half Irish Irish, half Korean. At that time, none of the main characters of the books that I read that attracted me where the main character was Asian or part Asian. And the neighborhood that Rainbow Rowell put in this book, there are mentioned that there are black people in this neighborhood. And honestly, I think that her putting that into the story makes the story even more interesting. Everything that Rainbow Rowell explained in this book, it feels like I am living a new life. I feel like I'm reading a journal of my friend from America, and these two points together makes the book even more relatable. Now, the whole premise of how the main character, the main girl character, is very quirky, very out there, very unique, and that can be one of the things that make the book unique. However though, I think that it is a very common storybook plot line, premise, trope, whatever you want to call it. Basically, one of the most common plot of a storybook is the girl being very quirky, very interesting. So that point alone don't make the book outstanding, but the fact that it had domestic abuse and domestic violence and diversity in this book makes the book even more interesting. Now I'm gonna go into the characters next. Eleanor, the main girl character. I find that she's so relatable, okay? Number one, she's shy, but not in the normal, she's shy but she's pretty kind of main character. She's not that. She's a type that not a lot of people will fall in love. Her character is so unique to the point where a lot of people can relate to. The way that Rainbow Rowell described her in this book is way better than a very shy but very pretty high schooler girl that you read about. I personally think that the development of Eleanor's character is amazing in this book. She is though, I'm gonna admit, this is something that the 17-year-old me did not expect, and that is she's super annoying. Every single time that I was in her point of view, I loved it. I was fangirling over her, and that was 4 years ago. Now when I'm 22 years old, I find her annoying. There are so many points in time that I'm just like, why do you have to be this way? Why do you react that way? Can you just be normal? And that is when I realized this is 22-year-old me finding 17-year-old me super annoying. Probably if I had a journal when I was 17 years old and 22-year-old me find that journal and read the journal, how I think about myself is probably how I'm thinking about Eleanor at the point. So the next main character, Park, I realized now 4 years later, if he was a standalone character, he would be boring. I'm gonna be very honest. I think that the reason why the love story made it so interesting is because of how Park balanced Eleanor so well. If Park was a secondary character, I think he would be so boring. Even Eleanor, when I think about it, I think that if she's a secondary character, I would not like her. Both of them I would not like individually. However though, you put them together, it makes one of the best love stories that I found. Now, making Park half Korean, I honestly think that is one of the best decisions Rainbow Rowell did. She could have made Park another white person, another white male, but I think making him half Korean is a genius move. So before I picked the book up again, I could remember how Eleanor looks. However, I could not envision Park very clearly. Even during my first read when I was 17, I could not envision how Park is. I don't know why, maybe there wasn't enough description from Eleanor's point of view, but I could picture how Eleanor looked. Now, I don't have any idea other than how they look like on the book. There's no faces, so it was up to my imagination. When I was 17, I could not picture how he looked like. Going to be 22 now, I still can't picture how he looks like exactly. That is weird because I love Park, but I just don't have a clear vision of him in my mind. One thing though I wish there will be more development is his Korean culture. I know there's taekwondo. I know there is time to time where his mom mentioned stuff about her being Korean, about her being from a big family, but I just wish there was a little bit more inclusion about his Korean traditions. Other than taekwondo, I think there isn't much Korean references other than his mom talking about Korea. So I just wish there's a little bit of development in that. Another thing that I realized, I can picture Park's house so clearly. I think from Eleanor's perspective, I can envision her walking around Park's house. However though, I for some reason could not picture Eleanor's house. I picture Eleanor's room as a really small room. The door is here, open the door, the bed is beside here, and then the wall with the window. As the story goes, Eleanor's bunk bed is by the window. I for some reason keep thinking that their houses are 2 stories or multi-stories, but no, their houses are like 1 story. So I don't know why is that in my head. So on that part, I wish also there was a little bit of development in that. Maybe it's just me that I can't envision things properly. So next is the secondary characters. The parents. I think that this is one of the best described character development out of all the books that I've read. I love how the parents are portrayed in this book. There is so much character development with the amount of time that each of the main character interacts with the secondary characters. I can picture how Eleanor's mom looked, how Richard looked, how Park's parents looked, how Park's grandparents looked, but I just could not, I don't know for what reason, see Park's face clearly. The number one thing that I just wish there were more development is Baby and Denise, which is Eleanor's friend. I do not know why when I was 17 years old, I did not really remember that they were in the story. When I read the book 4 years later, I'm just like, why did I not remember that she had 2 friends that technically she can rely on, but she just didn't. I don't know. Was it just me? So I wish I have seen more of Baby and Denise. I hope I'm saying their name correctly. Next, I'm gonna talk about the ending. Now, the ending of Eleanor and Park has been something that I felt very strongly about the very first time that I read it, and it still is something that I feel so strongly about. Guys, 17-year-old me read the ending and was just about to flip the book across the room. The most that I could do is basically throw a book against the wall. 22-year-old me, I cried. I did not realize tears was running through my face. I have grown up, I have matured, and yet I cried at the ending. If someone were to ask me what is the #1 book scene that I will hate for the rest of my life, it is the ending of Eleanor and Park. For some reason, the 17-year-old me remember the ending as the end of their love story. I hated how the book ended. I hated how she had to go away. The first half of the book, I love how instantly I was sucked into the story. I love how everything was unfolding. I love how their love story was gonna start and move forward. The second half of the book, the main feeling that I felt was anger. And the second half of the book was when their love story developed. How they get their first kiss, how they held hands, about how they basically realized they love each other. And I hate how, me reading the second half of the book, all I felt was anger. All I could think about was the ending. You know those TV shows when the main character has a prophecy that they will most probably die at the end, and you know that they're really gonna die. You still watch, and when you see their death coming, you finally see their death happen, you just lost it. This was the ending for me. There's no one that died in this book. Thank God. I think that's the only thing that would happen that made me just basically throw the book off the cliff. Me knowing the ending basically made me cry even more at the end, and it made me so angry every single time that I see a point that in the end she could have took. Maybe in the end she could have gone to her 2 friends that would have helped. Maybe she would have stayed with Park, and maybe she would have just kicked Richie out. I don't know. All the different things that I was thinking about when I was reading the second half of the book, because I knew what would happen. For some reason, I remembered as their love story ending. Basically, Eleanor and Park will be ceased to exist. But then when I read the story again, it's actually a happy ending this time around. I do not know why. It is currently quarantined for me now. I think that this is probably not a good book to read, because every single time I read about how they are falling in love, and it just makes me miss my boyfriend all the more. I think the reason why I cried so much at the end, right, was because it just reminds me of how I can't meet my boyfriend now. I mean, it's not that serious, but it just makes the emotions even more. I don't know. I filmed myself when I was finishing this book. Just a side note, a disclaimer that I had no makeup on, that this pimple right here, this is the elephant in the room right now. I am going through a little bit of stress, so my face is breaking out. I look terrible, but here it is. Okay, hi. Oh god. It's getting bad, it's getting bad. Oh, it's getting worse. Oh, it's coming up or not? Oh, yeah. I finished the book. I never thought. I knew the ending was coming, but I did not expect myself to cry. I was prepared for it. I knew it was coming. but I still cried. Okay, I need to stop. Okay, I'm gonna stop. Okay, bye-bye. Yeah, I also had a few points that I had. I know in my book review I mentioned a few points, but here are the points that I felt the need to write down and say and rant it out and basically talk about it. I have my notes right here. Page 70. I just love how he approached her after the whole incident. He was so gentle. I really felt like he had genuine emotions here. I really felt like I was watching them in front of me in the bus. And then the next page, when he touched her hand, girl, so sweet. I just can't. I remember loving this scene when I was 17, and I love this scene still when I'm 22. And then after this, the main character started to realize things about the other one when she noticed his height against his, and that's how I knew that it was basically them falling in love. Page 77, basically how Eleanor described Park. I just envision him as a K-pop star, like a very vague K-pop star that is like on stage. Another point that I made was page 82, where I stated Eleanor has a dad that is well-to-do. I think at this point I was mainly angry because I was expecting the ending, and I was just like, why can't she just go to her dad? And then when I finished the book, I realized that maybe the dad wasn't a good option. Maybe the uncle was a better option. Oh, page 130, the fight scene where Park finally stood up to Steve. You know those memories that pop up in your head? You keep remembering, but you just don't know where it's from. From time to time, the scene pops up in your head and you're like, where on earth have you seen it before? Which TV show, which movie you've seen it before? And it was from this book. The fight scene where Park basically pushed Steve against the bus. That is the scene that I keep thinking about in my head for the past 4 years, but I never knew where it came. I honestly thought that it was from a movie, from a TV show, but it was from this book. Oh, my bookmark fell. Next thing, page 134, when Park mom said, fighting like white trash dumb monkey. I thought that was funny. Honestly, I love Park's mom. She's so cute. And next thing is page 165. This has been my favorite quote, and it still is my favorite quote. Eleanor was right. She never looked nice. She looked like art, and art wasn't supposed to look nice. It was supposed to make you feel something. That has been my favorite quote of all time ever since I started reading, and it still is. It's so right on how I feel about like art and everything that has to do with like design, and basically how I felt about like myself, because I grew up not really being very thin, and this is me directing to how I feel about Eleanor. When I read this book the first time around, I think the reason why I love Eleanor so much was because of how much she reminded me of myself. Honestly, I grew up with all the girls around me being slimmer. I mean, I'm not exactly a very like chubby or very fat, but then all the girls that I was friends with, they were very skinny. Everyone was thinner, everyone was more beautiful, everyone had beautiful hair. All the guys was chasing them instead. I felt like the ugly fat friend that was funny, or like I wasn't even funny. I think for someone like Eleanor to be the main character and to have someone fall in love with her, I felt like that gave me a glimmer of hope when I was growing up. And me being 17, me being a teenager at that age, a lot of things, especially in the media, and especially if you don't have the ideal body, it's very hard. A lot of times a lot of people say it doesn't matter as long as you're confident in yourself. Yes, I get that, but then it doesn't help if everything that you see around you is not your body type, is not your body shape. Everyone on the media is basically really stick thin or really curvy. I'm just like a balloon person at the side, and I think that's one of the reasons that I really applaud Rainbow Rowell for making this book. It may seem like a typical trope of a book. Honestly, I wish that I would have read this book earlier on my teenage years. It would just have made me feel more confident with how my body is. And I love my body now. I don't care if I'm thin, but yeah, moving on. Page 229, when she said that she was running out of time with Park, I kind of broke apart inside, because I'm just like, again, I was waiting for the ending to happen about how they find out about Richie, And when she said that she was running out of time, I felt like it was my alarm clock making me wake up from my dream. Basically, Rainbow Rowell just put a reminder that you're gonna get heartbroken. Next thing, page 289. When Park was talking to his dad, he pointed out that Richie hurts Eleanor's mom. He didn't think about reporting this instead, and I get it, like at that time, the most reasonable plan to do was send her to her uncle. But maybe they could have reported Richie. Maybe Eleanor can go home. Maybe if they reported that there's an abuser in the house, maybe Eleanor and Park could still be together and not wait a year till Park gets that postcard. I'm just frustrated at the ending. The last scene that I want to point out in the book is page 302 when they were on their road trip. Well, basically this scene is at that time when I was 17, I didn't realize it was about them going to have sex, but they did, and it took me being 22 years old to realize that they were actually gonna have sex. And then when they were saying goodbye, page 305, they were basically saying how they can still have their love survive even if Eleanor moves away. And that's one thing that I hate. That was one thing that I had a hard time accepting when I was 17. I'm just like, why can't you just mail back? Because at that time there was no email. Why can't you just send back a letter? You miss him so much. You couldn't stay away for the weekend when you guys were together, yet you could stay away for a year. That's the one thing I just could not understand when I was 17 years old. Now that I'm 22, I relate and understand why Eleanor did what she did. I now realize that why she could not open the letter. I think maybe if she opened up the letter, it would just make her realize that she's in this situation and she no longer have power. Okay, so then I want to go back to talking about the ending. This is actually one of the things that I realized my opinions have changed so much. Again, I used to hate the ending. I would think that their love story ended basically when Park tried to send her letters and she just did not respond. When she finally sent back the letter, I just could not register that maybe those 3 words was I love you, because Eleanor never said it back and I did not know why. I don't remember her not saying it back. When I was 17, I just could not understand why they had to send her off to her uncle. Why couldn't she just go to like her dad or like somewhere nearby or to a friend's house nearby? Why can't she just stay with Park? When I finally got to that part, I realized that that was actually the best option. That is probably the most mature option and probably the safest option that would have happened, me being 22 now that I have like matured. And when I realized how my opinions have changed, and that is what I found really interesting, and that is why I wanted to make this video. Now we're going to watch my book review. I find that I've changed so much. I'm actually thinking about doing a reaction video on my like old videos, or my very first few videos. Maybe in the next video, I don't know. I'll probably sound super different, super annoying, I guess. Oh, I actually have the same hair length. Bruh. Maybe a bit longer then. This is posted on November 14, 2015. I used to call this Elysium book talk. Oh, that's so cute.
Hi, my name is Jezlyn. Today we are going to discuss a very, very interesting book that I love.
Oh, I threw the book.
Park by Rainbow Rowell.
For some reason, I look different yet the same.
Can you see the colorful bookmarks? Because I have so many things I want to talk about.
I used to bookmark my books for every single thing that I wanted to talk about in the video.
This book is part of my PRM. If you guys don't know what that is, I will link a video right here.
And I only did one book reading marathon, and that is the Rainbow Rowell book reading marathon. I marathon through Harry Potter, which is over here, but then I didn't go around to filming this. Maybe I'll reread the books and maybe I'll film another book reading marathon. Part of me just wants to react to all my old videos. Anyway, moving on.
I love the story so much. The characters are so relatable and the storyline is so cute.
Yes.
I read this book in 3 sittings in 2 days, and this is the fastest book that I've ever read through.
I read this in 2 days. Actually, wow, that's fast. This time around, I read it in 4 days, but I wasn't rushing to read it because I was picking it up when I had a chance to. And 4 days is actually pretty good because it ended my reading slump. So yeah.
If you are planning to read this book, you should actually know that there is a lot of curse words and a lot of
Oh
vulgarities in this
yeah.
book. I, being 17, I was shocked at the amount of curse words that this book had.
Now reading it at 22, it does not have as much cuss words as I thought it would have. I think at that time I just wasn't used to having like cuss words in a book, and it had a lot from my perspective. But if you're used to that, it won't seem like a lot.
So leave this video. You guys have not read the book. See you guys. Bye. Bye. Bye.
Why did I use it like that?
You guys have read the book. Okay. You guys have read the book. Can we just talk about the ending?
Oh.
The whole freaking book is about how Eleanor and Park can't be separated. The whole book is about how they want to see each other, how they just want to be with each other.
Oh my god, I sound so young.
She went on a year without opening letters, but that's the thing. We still don't know whether she has opened the letters or not. At the end of
She
the book,
probably
what?
did.
This is mail, and when you think it's a letter, it's not a letter. It's a freaking postcard. A postcard.
Why am I so
A
frustrated?
postcard. And that's the thing I don't like about the ending, because we do not know how her family is at the end, or how people are still living
That's
without
true.
her, or how her life is when she's in Minnesota.
That's true. Actually, one thing that I wish that would happen more at the end is either how her family is without Eleanor, or how Park family is without Eleanor, or how the whole situation was when she was away. I just felt like that could be expanded it more. Honestly, I felt the ending was a little cut short.
Eleanor never once said that she loves him back.
So I did realize it in the beginning.
Frustrating situation that Eleanor was in. I was able to relate to them a lot. Like, she didn't love wearing shorts because she felt that she was insecure about her body, and I in the past didn't like to wear shorts because
I still don't.
Eleanor is me, but with red hair and freckles, and she doesn't have to wear specs.
I thought honestly at that point Eleanor is basically how I looked like. When I'm reading it now, I realized that at this point in time I'm actually super skinny. But I thought I was fat, and I am definitely chubbier than how I was when I was 17. Oh wow, times have changed.
I'm not going to forget it, she said, ever. She'll probably scream out Park's number on her deathbed. Can you imagine? Just for a second, she's just lying there and everybody thinks she's dead, and then she suddenly screams out his number. And then a few sentences later, it was the
Gosh, I was so
it made her want to help
perky.
his baby. So there were a lot of times where she didn't want to open up to Park. So I think that was one of like a bit annoying to me, I feel. But I do understand why Eleanor does the things that she do.
So I did find Eleanor annoying. I did find Eleanor annoying in the past. Oh wow, I thought I loved her. However, now when I look at it, right, I understand why Eleanor didn't tell Park about her whole life story in the beginning. That was probably what I would do right now if I were to meet someone new. I just wouldn't tell that person right off the bat.
I really like this particular quote in this book. Eleanor was right. She never looked nice. She looked like art, and art wasn't supposed to look nice. It was supposed to make you feel something.
Yeah.
I felt like the trowel took my
I still do
definition
love
of
that
my
quote.
heart. No, I had hope for Richie.
Oh
but,
no.
well, he disappointed
I feel
me.
sorry that I had hope for Richie. I feel sorry that I felt that way.
Nobody gets enough, she said. Nobody gets what they want. When you're always hungry, you're hungry in your head. She tapped on her forehead. I'm sorry for how I welcomed you, Eleanor. I really liked how the
Why did I read so monotonously?
How could he even look at her now? He wouldn't be able to, not without stripping her down to her gym suit. Now, at this, I still think that maybe he was embarrassed about seeing her without thinking
I was
about
so
that long white
innocent.
zipper. And I was like, why are you talking about a long white zipper? Why? What does it have to do with being embarrassed? And he was like, Jesus. I was like, I get what he was thinking. In the end,
I was
he
so
thinking
innocent
about
in the
himself.
past.
Just a nice touch of humor and cuteness and
Oh, I look so young. I was so young.
So for some reason, his dad is gonna assume like, oh, my son is going going to drive all the way to Minnesota and drive his girlfriend, and hopefully everything is fine.
I now think that going to Eleanor's uncle was the right choice. I could imagine me being the parent and understanding that she had to go to her uncle because it's still relative, and I would not take her in because she's not blood related. My 17-year-old self would think that I would rather if Park family took her in instead. But I now think that that is not the right choice.
I tried to understand why maybe his dad didn't offer to drive them to Minnesota. But what is more important than your child's safety?
Oh, that is one thing that I was also confused, is why didn't he drive them to Minnesota? If I was a parent, I would still send them to Minnesota. However, if you look at it based on how to build the story, they wouldn't have their last moments alone. I understand now why Rainbow Rowell actually made them go Minnesota alone, because they could have their last moments together. They could actually cherish with each other for the last few times that they were together. I just basically rephrased the same thing and said it twice. Moving on.
I thought there was another chapter. See this? You turn. It's a freaking acknowledgement. You can't even tell me what happened with their relationship, and you also can't tell me what was the 3 words.
Gosh, I was so angry.
This book.
Yeah, so that was the video. Overall, I think that this is still by far my favorite book. I think it comes close to one of my most favorite romance books out there. I think definitely it's interesting that I had a change of appreciation and change of interest when it comes to this book. Serious topics like domestic violence and abuse and diversity isn't something that my 17-year-old self had much appreciation for. I'm not saying that at that time I hated it or did not appreciate it. Me being 22 now, I am more aware of these topics being talked about and being included in this book. And that is really weird thinking about it, because it showed how much I've matured over the years. And I'm so happy that I read this book again 4 years later, because it made me realize so much things about myself. I saw myself in Eleanor when I was 17. I still see myself as Eleanor now, about how she handled situations, and I think she is indeed one of the characters that I will forever have a place in my heart for. I just think that this is a book that I will always recommend to the community. Whether you are 17, whether you're 15, 16, whether you're 25. Obviously when I'm 17, I had a different set of thoughts. Now I have a different set of thoughts. Maybe in 5 years I'll read this and have a different set of thoughts. That is something that I did not expect or did not realize happening to me reading at different points of my life. I did not have a childhood where I could say I was growing up on Harry Potter, because I hated reading in the past. I hated how I have to sit down for hours and read a book. Whenever I see booktubers talk about how they read this book when they were of a younger age and how they think about it, part of me can kind of understand. I mean, I can't understand to the full extent because I was a teenager and they read it when they were young, but rereading my favorite book again for the first time in years, I think it's something that I want to look back at and see myself talk to the camera about. Yeah, and I'm glad that this ended my 3 years reading slump. I am definitely so happy to be back on YouTube. I have so many ideas to post on this channel. As you can see, I have a lot of books right here that I actually bought in the past, but I have not read it. Actually, when I first reached out for Eleanor Park, I opened up the book. One thing that I realized is how bad the book has aged. There were brown spots and I'm just like, oh my god, when I got this book it was brand new, and now it looks aged. I probably will still keep the book, and 5 years later I will look at it, I'm just like, oh my god, this is such an old book. One thing that I realized, and I think maybe I want to point out, is this smells like those kind of books that you get at thrift store or like thrift bookstores, and like those really old book smells. If you have smelled it before, you can't know what I mean. Don't deny. I can't believe a book sitting on my shelf would aged this much. Like the pages look old and like there are still dust that is coming out, and I have read this through. So I guess that's that. If you have stayed throughout till the end, I am gonna pat your back. Let me just give you a hug. If you actually stayed till the end, I am just gonna say I can't believe that you've you've gone through this whole video. I really wanted to make this like really in-depth as much as I can, because there are some things that I look back at my old video and wish that I've mentioned. And yeah, before this carry on to another 30 minutes or an hour, I am gonna end this here. I hope you guys are staying safe. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys enjoyed this video, please like and please subscribe. I hope to see you guys in my next video. Till then, stay safe and bye bye.